When we have them, we win every time. Now, I told you I wasn't going to play a lot of videos. I want to play one. Quick show of hands, how many of you heard about the disruptions of Israeli Ambassador Michael Oren at the University of California, Irvine last February? Okay, most of the room. You know, for those who didn't know, Michael Oren, the ambassador to the United States from the state of Israel, was invited to speak at the University of California, Irvine last February. 11 students ultimately stood up in a coordinated fashion and systematically attempted to prevent him from speaking by disrupting the speech. The group, of which most of them were affiliated, the Muslim Student Union, was ultimately suspended from campus. The 11 students now face criminal prosecution in Orange County. However, no one asked ultimately what the campus Israel community felt about this event. What do the students feel about what happened? And in fact, just 2 weeks after the event, the student government at the University of California, Irvine passed a resolution in solidarity with the 11 students who disrupted Ambassador Oren. Like I say, show of hands, everybody had, most everyone had heard about that event. How many of you saw the response by the Jewish community? 1, 2. Kol hakavod to you. Let me show you this video.
Basically, we're at the Ledge Council meeting right now.
The video you're seeing, by the way, created entirely by students, produced entirely by students. It does have that feel. And the social media project that came out as a result of this is one that my organization has now supported with an Israel advocacy organization.
We have a group of students that would like to speak.
Hey, my name is Ami. I'm the president of the Jewish Student Union on campus. So last week, the council passed legislation entitled Resolution Condemning Academic Repercussions for Nonviolent Protests. The resolution essentially pardoned the 11 students who attempted to silence our voice on this campus. I ask again, when will this student government stand up for me?
My family fled Iran as refugees because we were not afforded the right to speak freely, as we are here. But now we come to this country where we thought freedom existed, where we thought we could speak freely without being intimidated or shut down. But I am not afforded the right to speak freely on this campus, and this student government remains silent. When will this student government stand up for me?
This is not the first time my voice has been silenced because of who I am. In 2007, our event was disrupted by students from this same organization, and there was no condemnation. When will the student government stand up for me?
The issue is no longer about Israelis and Palestinians. It is about our most fundamental rights as UC students in America. When will this student government stand up for me?
Do you understand the implication that this legislation is setting for the future speakers when they come to a public university? When will the student government stand up for me? When will the student government stand up for me?
When will the student government stand up for me?
My mother grew up in Egypt. Her family was oppressed and dehumanized because they were Jews. They came to America, a place where they thought they would be afforded basic human rights, the freedom to speak and the freedom to learn. But the same powers that oppressed my mother and the Jews of Egypt have followed us here, to this campus. As you can tell, our community is very upset about this legislation that passed last week. We don't think it was fair. We think that it was one-sided. And we don't think that it spoke for the entire student body. I want to ask a few questions to this council. How many of the people on this council were at the event on February 8th? Please raise your hands. How many members of this council understand the history of anti-Semitism on this campus and the history of the Muslim Student Union on this campus? Please raise your hand. How many members of this council understand the Israeli-Palestinian conflict was nuanced and understand what those 11 students were even trying to express on that day? Please raise your hand. Before you tonight is not a fringe group of students. This is the Jewish community of East Europe. My question to you is, when will this student government stand up for me? When will this student government stand up against those who try to silence our voice on this campus? When will this student government stand up against hatred and intimidation of Jewish students that students on this campus face year after year? When will this student government say that hatred towards Jews and Zionists is just as bad as hatred towards any other minority on this campus? When will this student government stand up? Thank you very much.
Look, if you hadn't seen that video before, I don't blame you. You know, bad news travels fastest, right? When it bleeds, it leads. But if there's something that you can take away from this event, is that I want you to understand that there are students, there are campus community members, campus professionals who work hard on these issues all the time. When we hear the words, campuses are burning, I want you to understand that yes, right, there are challenges on campuses, and campuses are burning, but not in the way that you might think. That in fact, campuses are burning to tell you their stories. Students, campus professionals, and others are waiting for your support and for your ears so that they can tell you what their challenges are, what their opportunities are, what their victories are, as well as what their setbacks are. They want you to see and understand the full nuance of what it means to be on a campus in the 21st century in 2011. Now, those students that you saw in that video, I actually employ one of them now as one of our reporters for the Israel Campus Beat. He was the one sitting in the front row with the very overly thin tie and scruffy looking beard. Lovely guy, Matan Lori, who's now the president of Hillel at UC Irvine. He hates this video. Not because he doesn't think it tells their story, but because he knows that nobody's seeing it. And that he wants more people to know what his life, what his peers' life is really like. There are many channels for people to be involved. If you have students of your own, they're not alone. They don't have to exist in silos, and there are many, many opportunities. Our partner organizations, Hillel, of course, as a strategic partner now on campus, and as well as these 36 other organizations as well, dozens of conferences that take place on a national level regularly, annually, information and resources that are available to campuses regularly, and plenty of opportunities to travel to Israel, to study in Israel, and to participate in Israel cultural events. I will say this too, the data is not hard to find, it's very clear. For our own students, the longer that a student spends in Israel, the closer their attachment and affiliation to Israel and to the Jewish people is. It's been well documented for years and years. One of the reasons why my organization pushes for study abroad. Well, but if it's short-term programs like Birthright, longer programs like Study Abroad, or the Masa Israel programs like Project Otzma, I would encourage you, or for that matter, I know in this audience we have many who have children who are living in Israel. I would encourage you to have your students and the students of those around you find their own way there and to see it for their own eyes. Lots of information about this topic from other sources. You can look to our partner organizations, look to our website, the Israel Campus Beat, which I've mentioned several times. Hillel is a tremendous resource. Their website, Hillel's website, has a guide for Jewish life on hundreds of campuses around the country. And even the Union of Reformed Judaism puts out an annual guide on college campuses. I put the URL at the bottom of the slide here, but feel free to type it into Google, URJ's annual guide on Jewish campus life. there's lots of information out there, and the best thing for our community to do is to be well informed. With that, I'll conclude, and I'll be welcome to take your questions. Thank you. Question over here.
I wonder if you could comment, you sort of mentioned it a little bit, but the Muslim Student Association, which was founded by the Muslim Brotherhood, is extremely well organized, currently very well funded, and they seem to be much better organized than the Jewish students. Matter of fact, in your Irvine example, there were major Jewish organizations which were backing the chancellor who really didn't want to do anything. And also there were major organizations that obviously were on the good guys' side. And Hillel in the past has been extremely problematic depending on what campus you're on. So although you're doing great things, Steve, and I don't want to diminish it, it seems to me that there is a really major challenge out there, and it's a lot bigger than people really realize. I've gone to Finkelstein talks, all kinds of stuff. And
what's your question?
My question is, how well organized is the opposition? Is the Jewish community really aware of the problem? And do we really have a unified front? I'm glad we're doing that.
Thank you. Let me take it backwards. Do we have a unified front? No. The Jewish community is not monolithic. And to the Jewish community's credit, there are multiple streams of thought and of support, and multiple channels, multiple places for people to find homes. I see things a little differently than the way you described it. I found Hillel to be a strategic partner and ally on campuses, and I found that that the mission, the mandate of Hillel to sustain meaningful Jewish campus life and to cultivate Jewish identity amongst students on your campus is an outstanding mission. Now recognize that that's a Jewish campus mission. That is not an Israel campus mission necessarily, although it is, clearly a part of Jewish campus life. The Muslim Student Union, particularly in California, is clearly problematic in many places. It's not monolithic either. And Muslim student associations on campuses around the country oftentimes have very positive relations, both with the Jewish community and with the pro-Israel community. It varies. There are 2,400 four-year colleges and universities in the country, and it's very difficult to characterize them all in one particular way. That said, there are real issues out there, and no one would ever diminish them. And as I think we were talking about over chicken just earlier, it's not by accident that there's so much effort that's put into this. Our community can't stop being vigilant, and there's much more work yet to be done. I would, as many would like to see our community work more effectively together to try to attack each other less and try to focus on the positive goals more. But I will take positive efforts where we can find them. Other questions? Yes.
We see in world affairs in the last couple of weeks especially, things like Facebook and Twitter playing such a large role. Is your organization, our Jewish organizations, utilizing those tools to the extent that they could be, and can you comment on that?
Yeah, sure, thank you. There's much more that can be done. What's interesting to me, for example, when I gave the example of Israel Peace Week, that was student-driven. Students created the website, students created the Facebook page, and students dictated the terms there. We have two students in the audience tonight. I won't pick on them. Okay, a little bit. Twitter? Do you use Twitter? Shaking heads. Students don't use Twitter. It's actually been a well-documented phenomenon nationally.